Buddies for keeps.
Gary could hardly wait until Boys Club meeting. Tonight they would be making final plans for their week-long camp-out up at Camp Matawa. What fun they were going to have. Would time never pass? Next door, Gary could see Joey Dillon busy mowing and raking the Dawsons' yard. Now, Joey was not the Dawsons' own son. He was a foster child, a welfare kid as he sometimes referred to himself. Joey had been in some kind of trouble in the last place he'd stayed, and once he had run away from the Dawsons. Gary had heard Dad telling Mom that he thought the Dawsons were more interested in the welfare check than they were in Joey.
Hi, Joey. How about a round of catch for a few minutes?
Hi, Gary. Sure, I'd like to, but I can't.
After work, huh?
Yeah. Mrs. Dawson says I can't play tonight because I accidentally ran over one of her peonies with a lawnmower.
Look, Joey, I'll help you finish the lawn in a hurry. Then maybe Mrs. Dawson will let you come to our boys' club meeting with me. We meet in the church basement. Would you like that?
Sure would, but I doubt they'd let me go. They don't think much of church. Mrs. Dawson says some church people are just busybodies. Actually, I don't think Mrs. Dawson likes much of anything.
Well, we can try anyway. Here, you go on with the mowing, and I'll rake up the grass.
Say there, Gary Borton. You go along and let Joey finish his job.
But Mrs. Dawson, I just wanted to help Joey get finished. If we could get it done all neat and clean, could Joey come to our boys' club meeting tonight? We'll only be down at the church for about an hour.
Joey's not going anywhere tonight. He just cut off my best peony, just to be ornery. That's why he's working now, so he'll remember to be careful next time. And he doesn't need any help, thank you, so you go on down to your church and sing hymns or whatever other foolishness you do.
Sorry, Joey.
Yeah, well, thanks anyway, Gary.
Maybe next time she'll let you come.
Yeah, but maybe there won't be a next time.
What did Joey mean by that? Was he thinking of running away again? Poor fella. He'd moved around so much he never had a chance to really belong anywhere or to make close friends. And there were no other children in the Dawson home. For that matter, Gary thought there hadn't been another boy in his own home since his brother Jim went off to the university last year. Gary and Jim had been close, and that empty bunk in their room made Gary feel pretty lonesome at times. But Gary had lots of friends at school and church, though, and Joey didn't.
Hi there, Gary.
Hello, Mr. Mackey.
Well, you're early this evening. The first one here, in fact.
Yeah, I know.
Got something special on your mind?
Well, yes. There's this boy next door, Joey Dillon. He's a foster child and stays with the Dawsons.
Oh.
They're awfully cross with him. They really don't act like they even want him there. The poor guy never has any fun.
Well, what do you think we should do, Gary?
Well, I was wondering if we could ask him to come to Lake Matawa with us.
That's what I thought you were going to suggest.
Could he, please, Mr. Mackey?
Well, I don't see why not. As long as the other boys have no objections and the Dawsons will let him go.
Boy, that's swell.
Tell you what, after the meeting tonight, I'll walk along with you and we can see the Dawsons together.
The boys' vote was unanimous. Joey could come. Gary was delighted. But later, when he and Mr. Mackey turned in at the Dawson house, he began to feel all shaky and nervous. After all, Mrs. Dawson had shooed Gary off once already this evening. When she opened the door in response to Gary's knock, her face looked as sour as a lemon.
Good evening, Mrs. Dawson. I'm Jim Mackey, counselor for the Boys Club down at the church. A group of our fellows are going up to Lake Matawa to our camp for a week, leaving Monday morning. Gary here suggested that Joey might like to go along. I thought we'd stop by and see if he could go.
I'm afraid it's out of the question. Joey would be too much of a responsibility for you to handle with all that group of boys. He's a welfare child, you know.
I'm sure we could handle any situation that might arise. Gary knows Joey pretty well, and the two of them would make a good team. There'll be 3 adult counselors along, so there wouldn't be any lack of supervision.
Well, there's more to the problem than I've told you.
You won't want Joey along when you hear what happened the last time he was at a camp.
Well, I'm not sure that I know what you mean, Mrs. Dawson.
He steals.
What?
Yes, sir, a regular little thief. He took a wristwatch from a boy at camp and then lied about it.
But I found it in a suitcase when he got home. You can bet he heard about that.
But did he know anyone at that camp before he went there?
Why, I don't know. Come to think of it, I suppose he didn't. It was over in the next county. The welfare people arranged for him to go.
Now, that might have been the problem. Joey's moved around a lot and probably finds it hard to make friends. Stealing the watch could have been a way of showing resentment at being on his own and lonely. Has he stolen anything else since then?
No, not that I've caught him at, anyway. He very well knows what would happen to him if he stole anything again. Right back to the welfare on the next bus.
Well, Mrs. Dawson, I don't think we'd be worried about the problem. Even if Joey did take something, I think we could handle the situation. Look, we'd like very much to have Joey come with us.
Well, of course, we want Joey to have fun like other children. But you have to remember that Joey isn't our own boy. One has to be so careful with these foster children. Well, what I'm trying to say is that we aren't his guardians. We would have to get permission from the welfare office over at the county seat. And that would probably take too long for Joey to be ready to go with you on Monday morning.
No problem. I'm going over to the county seat tomorrow. I'll drop in and see Joey's social worker, and she can call you to let you know her decision.
Well, I think you may be making a mistake. Joey's a rough boy, not like your church group. They may not like him at all.
You know, Mrs. Dawson, the boys down at the church aren't some kind of freaks. They're just normal boys who want to get the most out of life, and their Christian beliefs help them to do it. Joey might surprise us, too. Could be that he'd be as good for our boys as they might be for him.
Joey was afraid right up to the last hour that something would prevent him from going to Camp Matawa. But when the station wagons pulled out for camp, Joey was right there in the back, sitting beside Gary.
Hey, Joey, I'm sure glad you're coming along. Mr. Mackey said that you and I will be buddies. That means we stay together and keep each other from getting lost or in trouble.
Okay with me. I can't believe I'm really going with you. And Mr. Mackey is all right.
The first few days at camp went smoothly. The water was just right for swimming, and everyone had turns with the canoes. Joey surprised the boys with his knowledge of the woods. It turned out that he had spent a year on a farm upstate and had actually gone prospecting with a foster brother. One morning he demonstrated how to pan for gold in the creek bed near camp. They didn't find any gold, but they had a great time learning this new skill. Campfires were a favorite time for all the boys. Counselor Steve Guptill always brought his guitar. Sometimes the boys would sing along. At other times, just listen.
Silently now I wait for thee. Ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my eyes, illumine me. Spirit of God, descend on me.
Thank you, Steve. Now, boys, look up beyond the campfire, beyond the trees. Did you know that on a night like this you can see from 1,500 to 2,000 stars? Yet that's only the tiniest fraction of the stars that have been discovered and named by astronomers looking through giant telescopes. No matter how big they build their instruments, there are always more stars to be discovered. Our sun is one of the smallest stars.
Makes me feel pretty small.
Yeah.
When the astronauts showed us pictures from the moon, the whole Earth fitted easily into our television screen. Yet on our small Earth, more than 3 billion people live. And God has promised that He watches over each man and woman, each boy and girl. Each one is important to Him.
Does that mean that God knows there's a Gary Borton who lives on Chestnut Street?
Yes, He does, Gary. And He cares what Gary does, what happens to Gary, and what Gary will become.
Does he care about Joey Dillon, too?
Why, certainly, Joey. He cares for all his boys, wherever they are and whoever they are.
Even if they never knew him?
God knew you from the moment you were born, Joey. He's been waiting for you to discover Him.
I'd like to know more about him. I want to know him.
You can know Him, Joey. He's a loving, wonderful Lord. If you give him your heart, he'll change your whole life. Steve, how about singing My Lord is Wonderful for us, would you?
Sure, Mr. Mackey.
Wonderful, wonderful, yes, my Lord is wonderful. Isn't Jesus, my Lord, wonderful? Eyes have seen, ears have heard, 'tis recorded in God's word. Isn't Jesus, my Lord, wonderful? Yes, he is wonderful, yes, my Lord is wonderful. Isn't Jesus, my Lord, wonderful? Saving me, keeping me throughout all eternity. Isn't Jesus, my Lord, wonderful? Yes, he is wonderful, yes, my Lord is wonderful. Isn't Jesus, my Lord, wonderful? Eyes have seen, ears have heard, 'tis recorded in God's word. Isn't Jesus, my Lord, wonderful?
Joey and Mr. Mackey remained by the fire talking long after the rest of the boys had gone to their cabins. Later that night, Joey reached across from his bunk and touched Gary's shoulder.
You awake, Gary?
Huh? Oh, yeah. Almost asleep, though. Anything wrong?
I've been looking out there through the corner of the window. There's one little star I can see through the trees. I've been thinking, if I can see that tiny star, even though it's millions of miles away, then maybe God can see a boy like me in a cabin at Lake Matawa. Mr. Mackey says that God cares for even me.
Right. You haven't really had anyone that cares for you, have you, Joey?
Nah, my ma ran out on us when I was 3. I hardly remember. Pa spent all his money on booze, and he even forgotten all about me sometimes. I get so hungry. Guess finally some of the neighbors must have turned him in. A social worker and a policeman came and got me one day, and Pa came to see me just once. Guess he really didn't want me either. Since then, I've been in so many foster homes, I've lost count.
I'm sorry, Joey. Really sorry.
You don't have to be. That's just the way it is.
But I am sorry, Joey, because I care about you, too.
The weather remained clear and warm, and each day brought new experiences and fun. The boys agreed that they'd never had more fun at camp. In fact, things had gone so well that no one could imagine anything happening to mar it. But one day, during crafts time, Donnie Evans ran over from his cabin.
Mr. Mackey, someone's taken my jackknife.
Did you hear that? Someone's taking his knife.
I left it right there on my bunk with my compass, and now it's gone. Someone stole it. One of the guys here is a thief.
Are you sure you didn't lay it down somewhere? Some of you fellows were whittling down on the beach.
No, I left it on my bunk when I went swimming this morning. Besides, my compass is still there, and I laid them down at the same time.
We'll all keep our eyes open. Maybe it'll turn up somewhere yet.
No one mentioned the matter again during crafts, but Gary knew it was not forgotten. The fellows would be discussing it in 2s and 3s later, and Donnie would certainly voice his suspicions. And since Joey was the new kid in the group, the boys would naturally suspect him. After lunch, Mr. Mackey called Gary into the little office in the camp dining room.
I've talked to Donnie again, Gary. He's pretty careful about what he does, and I'm inclined to believe that someone did take his knife. I've also done some checking around. It looks as if only 2 sets of buddies could have had the opportunity to be in that cabin after Donnie left.
Joey and I were doing dishes after breakfast. Then we were in our cabin making our bunks.
I'm not saying it was Joey, but it could have been. You and I are the only ones who know that he took something once before.
It could just as easily have been me.
Yes, it could have been you, but I don't think it was. I've known you too long, Gary. I don't think you'd do it. Just the same, you and Joey are buddies, so I want to talk to you together. Could you go find him and meet me here in half an hour?
Sure, Mr. Mackey.
Gary started walking slowly to the cabin. He wanted time to think. Joey could have taken the knife. There was no one else around when they were cleaning up. And he had left the cabin for a minute to shake out his sleeping bag, but he just couldn't believe Joey had done it. He'd gotten to know Joey a lot better since they'd become buddies.
Hey, Joey? No, cabin's empty. Wonder where it could be. I'd better check down at the beach. Any of you guys seen Joey?
No, we haven't seen him. He hasn't been down here at all.
Man, buddies are supposed to stay together or else let the other partner know where he would be. It just isn't like Joey to forget the buddy rule. Joey did kind of turn red when Donnie said his knife was gone. He probably already thinks the other guys suspect him. Wow, maybe his feelings were hurt and he's run away. I should have stayed with him. Fine friend I turned out to be.
At their first morning's chapel, Mr. Mackey had suggested that each pair of boys find a quiet spot where they could spend some time on their own, thinking and getting to know each other better. Joey and Gary had climbed to the top of a hill and laid claim to a snug little corner in the midst of a jumble of boulders. Gary decided that if Joey were still in camp, that's where he would be. Joey was there, slouched against one of the boulders, his hands in his pockets, and his face a picture of misery. When he looked up at Gary, there were tears in his eyes.
Aw, Joey, don't feel bad about it. No one's saying you took the knife. After all, Donnie might have left it somewhere. You heard what Mr. Mackey said. Oh, Donnie's knife. Well, where did you find it?
I didn't find it. I stole it.
But why, Joey?
I don't know. It was lying there on the bunk like Donnie said. When you went out, I picked it up just to look at it, and then I just put it in my pocket.
Look, Joey, let's go talk to Mr. Mackey. He'll know what to do.
I can't. He'll think I'm a terrible guy the way I let him down. No, Gary, I'm going to slip back to the cabin to get my things. Then I'll be on my way. Better all around.
You won't do any such thing, Joey. We're going to see Mr. Mackey. So come on now.
I don't know why I did it. You've all been swell. For once, I really felt I belonged here. I guess I'm just no good.
Well, I'm sorry you took the knife, but I'm pleased that you have the courage to tell me about it. I can see that you're sorry for what you've done.
I'll give the knife back to Donnie and then pack my things.
Oh, don't get in a rush. What's all this about packing?
Why, you won't want me here now. Now that I turned out to be a thief, you'll want to take me back to the Dawsons, and they'll probably send me back to the welfare.
Joey, sit down a minute. There's some things I want to say. Now, you remember the other night when we were talking about the stars and the earth and how many people there are and how each one is important to God?
Yes, but now I've let God down, too. He won't want anything to do with a fella that steals.
Listen, Joey, every one of us makes mistakes, especially when we're young. God knows that. But he wants us to let him help us live a better life. And in his letter to us, the Bible, he tells us that if we confess our sins, he'll forgive us and cleanse us. It was wrong to take Donnie's knife, but it was right to confess and to feel sorry for what you've done.
I'm truly sorry, Mr. Mackey. I'd give anything to have another chance. I thought you'd want me out of the camp as soon as possible.
Of course not. We want you to stay, Joey. So just forget about leaving. You're part of our camp and an important part, too.
Thanks. But what about the other fellas? What will they think?
Well, they really don't have to know that it was you who took the knife.
They don't? But they know that someone took it, and they'd go right on being suspicious. I think I'd feel better if they know.
Good boy, Joey. I hoped you'd say that. You can tell him in your own way, though.
Mr. Mackey put his hand on Joey's shoulder and gave him a smile of encouragement. At the close of the campfire program that night, Mr. Mackey stood up and faced the group.
And now, fellas, it's time to hit the sack. But before we turn in, Joey Dillon has something to say to you. Joey?
Well, I guess I have something to say to Donnie Evans first. Donnie, here's your knife. I'm sorry I took it. Will you forgive me?
Why, Joey, I guess so. Why, sure, I'll forgive you.
Thanks, Donnie. You're a real friend. You all know now who it was that took the knife. I think you should know, too, that I've taken things before I came to this camp, I mean. It was something different this time, though. I felt sorry afterward, and I wish with all my heart that I hadn't done it. You guys have been swell to me here at the camp. I know I don't deserve your friendship now, but I want you to know that I'm sorry for what I did. I hope you can forgive me.
I don't know how the rest of you guys feel. I think it took a lot of courage to do what Joey just did. I think he's okay.
The rest of the camp was better than the first part, if possible. It seemed like everyone went out of his way to make Joey feel at home. And Joey did his best to get to know everyone else. The only thing that spoiled it for Joey was the knowledge that it would soon be over, and he'd have to go back to the Dawsons. Finally, the last campfire was over. Joey and Gary were bedded down in their bunks for the last night at camp. But no one felt like sleep.
I hope Mrs. Dawson will let you join the boys' club when we get home.
Oh, I hope so, too, but I'm not counting on it. The Dawsons don't understand about boys, I guess. I really don't think they even like boys very well.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Anyway, I'm going to do the best I can, and maybe it'll make a difference.
I don't think anything could sweeten Miss Dawson up.
Well, it's partly my fault. I really didn't go out of my way to get along with her before. Now I'm going to try harder.
The two boys, Joey and Gary, rode home in the same station wagon. Joey said little on the way home, and as they drove into town, his face grew longer and longer. When they pulled up at the church, Gary saw Mom waiting for him. But who was that lady with her? Wasn't one of the other mothers. Who could it be?
There's Mom. Don't know who that is with her, though.
Where? Oh, I do.
You do?
Yeah, she's my social worker. Looks like I'm moving again.
Moving again? How can you tell?
I just can. Just you wait and see.
All right, fellas, let's file out, and then we'll unpack your gear.
Hiya, Mom.
Gary, did you have a good time?
Just great, wasn't it, Joey?
It was the best time I ever had. Hello, Mrs. Borton, Miss Jensen.
How are you, Joey?
Hello, Joey.
I suppose I'm being moved again. Miss Dawson didn't even want me back, did she?
Well, not exactly, Joey. It's just that after talking to the Dawsons again, I decided that they just weren't able to meet the needs of a lively boy, Joey.
Yeah, I can see that. I sure hate to lose all my new friends. Where will I be going this time, Miss Jensen?
Well, that depends on Gary.
On me?
Why don't you explain it, Mrs. Borton?
Well, Gary, it's like this. Dad and I have been talking to Miss Sanderson quite a lot during the time you boys were at camp. She was looking for another home around here that had room for one more boy. The only one we could think of was our own.
You mean Joey can stay with us?
If you don't mind sharing your room.
Mind? Oh, Mom, that's great. Did you hear that, Joey?
It's terrific. Hey, this is the best day of my life. Wow.
Come on, Joey. Let's get our packs and head for home. Now we're buddies for keeps.